right, so, by the way, you have no vocab for the rest of the week. I'm just taking vocab off the table because my soul's been broken this week. Just being honest. God, it's been a terrible week, and I just can't. And AP World doesn't have vocab this week, so like, I just don't feel like it. And I know that makes me a bad person. I'm so sorry. Gabriel's really disgusted right now. So, today you have no vocab. Tomorrow you have no vocab this week, but Monday you do have index cards too, because you do need to know these terms, and we are going to go through it. So yesterday we did talk about the DSM-4. What is the DSM-4? If you had to tell me, what would you say? What do you got, Elijah?
Manual of Psychological Disorders and Symptoms.
Cool. What does that actually mean?
So, it's got like a list of different symptoms, and they're all like related to different categories of diseases and disorders. And so, a doctor can, or anyone that's like related to medicine, the government, or doctors has one, and they can go to do it, and go like with you and ask you.
Oh my God, this is like so long. You're completely right. This is a lot of information.
So they tell you like what they're experiencing, and then you go through and you say, okay, well, you have this, and this. This means you have schizophrenia, or you have this disorder.
There you go. It's a multi-pronged way to diagnose people. Okay? They're looking at it in different aspects, in different ways to diagnose in order to help people do it. So when we talk about the DSM, of course, we have different axes and stuff like that, which will be your do now on Monday. I can tell you that right now. Anyway, so when we talk about disorders, we're officially starting. You better put that phone away. And Nico, thank you kindly. So, anxiety disorders are where we are. Here we go. Anxiety disorders are disorders in which the main symptom is excessive or unrealistic anxiety and fearfulness. This is a very common disorder here at Plant High School. Okay, I can tell you right now, I can probably come up with about 10 kids right off the top that I know who have this disorder. There may be kids in this room who have it. There are kids at this school who are undiagnosed that I would say, yeah, I would say they probably are. They're very common, and they are growing with your generation. So congrats, kudos to you guys, your generation. So now when we talk about anxiety disorders, so this is the broad category, anxiety disorders, and then it breaks down from there. So one of the anxiety disorders is called free-floating anxiety disorders. Now, free-floating anxiety disorders is when, you may just want to add it into your anxiety disorder box. Free-floating anxiety is when you are out with your friends, you're having a great time, it's Friday night, you are hanging out laughing, and then all of a sudden, you fall into this pit of anxiety. Now, think about the worst anxiety you've ever felt. Like, for instance, I'll tell you, last Sunday, I didn't have a panic attack, but I had like a huge swing of, have you ever just had like a rush of anxiety all of a sudden? Yeah. And you're just like, oh my God. Now, please keep in mind, when we're talking about these disorders, every single human experiences parts of these disorders on a one-time, maybe a couple times throughout your life basis. People who have these disorders have them on a very frequent basis. It happens a certain amount of times throughout the year, happens every month, couple times a month. So if you have ever had that feeling like you're just standing in the kitchen and you think about, like for instance, last Sunday I had free-floating anxiety. I was standing in the kitchen, I was making dinner, and McCray was working, of course, on his computer, and I was thinking about school for a second, and I just like overwhelmed with anxiety. Like, had to like put down like the knife I was using and was just like stood there, and McCurry's like, are you okay? I'm like, oh my God, I'm just so anxious all of a sudden. And he's like, why? You're not working. I was like, you son of a... Anyway, so if you've ever had that, okay, that is free-floating anxiety. I don't have an anxiety disorder. However, I've experienced it. It sounds like other people have experienced it once or twice, correct? If it happens on a regular basis, then you have it. Just because it happened to me once doesn't mean I have it. Nico.
It's like free-floating anxiety, like do you ever are you like ever somewhere and you feel like you can't be there right now? You're like, I have to be. I don't know. Like you're just like, I can't be here right now, and you stop you. And like it's like you feel like you're wrong being there.
I don't know about the geographic component of that. For me, weirds me out.
It's like a feeling. It's like a feeling. It's like
Yeah, like all of a sudden everything's fine, and then you're like, I gotta go.
Here. Like,
Yeah.
I just, like,
You may want to go because you don't want to be freaking out in front of people too. So whatever the root of it, is it that you are by yourself and you show up at a park and you're like, I gotta go?
No, like,
Or is it when you're with people and you're like, I gotta go?
It's like sometimes it's like you get there and it's like it doesn't like feel right, and like you're just like your body's like you still want to.
Yeah, that would be it's not an ideal example. So when we talk about free-floating anxiety, if you have the disorder, on a very regular basis, you can be happy, laughing, and then all of a sudden you're getting pulled into a deep, dark hole of anxiety without any triggers, for no cause. How scary is that? Because think about your worst moment with anxiety. Some of you may have crippling anxiety. Some of the people who are like me, I do pretty well with anxiety, but every once in a while I get really bad about something. Like last week, which is why I had the free floating. I woke up anxious. Anyone here ever woke up anxious? And that your everything that whole day is just like you're just building. And you're like, why the hell did I wake up anxious? It's a Saturday. And you're like, oh man. Okay.
Squeeze ice.
Huh?
Squeeze ice.
I'm sorry. What?
Like I don't know. Whenever you like, I squeeze ice.
Oh no, I just sit on my couch and I curl up with my dog and I watch Netflix. Not very healthy.
Really? You can sit still?
Oh yeah, baby boy is sleeping all day. All right, so phobia. Now I taught you the difference between a fear and a phobia. Who can tell me what a fear and a phobia is? And I like your shirt, Christina.
Thank you.
I think I tell you that every time you wear it, don't I?
Yeah.
It's consistent. What is the difference between a fear and a phobia, Maddie? Are you Googling it? Is that why you had your cell phone out? Because you wanted a better example?
Yeah.
Cool, what'd you Google?
Okay, so phobia is something like, it's like an irrational fear.
It doesn't have to be.
But like, so phobias, people are like, have like agoraphobia and like the fear of heights and stuff. And phobia is persistent all the time.
It is all the time. What that means is what, though, Maddie? Your whole life is based on it, right? Isn't that what your Google search just came up with?
Yeah.
Exactly. Every single thing about your life. So one of my girls from last period, she was talking about how her aunt has a phobia of feet.
What?
And I was like, because every time someone raises their hand and says, I have a phobia about something, I'm always very suspect because most people have fears or are uncomfortable by things and not phobias. She's like, as soon as she comes home from work, she goes straight to the bathroom and cleans her feet and puts on clean socks. I was like, okay. Okay, I see this. Okay, sounds like phobia. And then, like, before she goes to bed, she has to wash her feet again before she gets into bed and puts on a new pair of socks. I was like, all right, here we go. This is good. And then when she sees people without sandals on, and then especially if they have ugly feet, because some people have ugly feet. Well, I'm not saying I'm a foot person, but, like, some people have, like, really jacked up feet.
Yeah, that's true.
And like I'm gonna say it, my husband does not have cute feet. I'm really grateful he's in a sneaker phase right now. You know? He's not in this flip-flop stage. I'm so grateful. I bought him a bunch of sneakers over the last year and he's really embraced. Thank God, because he doesn't have cute feet and he doesn't take care of it, so okay, she literally has to leave the conversation if she sees someone who has those types of things. That directs her life. That's a phobia. Okay? Some people have social phobia. Now, I have social fears. I don't have social phobia. Now, some of your peers here tried ruining my Friday last week by calling attention to me in the auditorium and making a big fuss. And it was terrible. And I almost left the moment I walked in.
What was last one?
I went to the choral thing, Rick's Cafe, and I just walked in the back door, and of course your peers were like, Bennett! And made this huge big fuss, and I literally froze like an antelope.
Sorry, we love you.
It was terrifying. And I almost turned back and left.
I mean, to make you feel better, I'm pretty sure that's you're the only teacher that people
Yeah.
I don't think things are feeling any better.
I guess that's nice, right? That was a compliment.
You're loved.
I wouldn't do it to a lot of other teachers.
I would probably just be like.
Is it because you want to make me uncomfortable?
Yes.
Yeah,
all the time.
So, I have a social fear. I don't have a social phobia. However, there's a guy. Did you hear about this last year? Domino's is the real hero. Okay, Carbon's a real hero too, but like
Yes.
Domino's is a real hero too. So a guy who lives in Tampa who's a recluse. A recluse is someone who has social phobia. They don't like going out in social situations. Anyway, this guy apparently ordered from Domino's like 4 or 5, 6 times a week on a super regular basis. Well, one of the delivery guys who delivers to him like all the time is like, it's so weird. We haven't heard from Bill. I don't know what his name is. So he's like, hey, I'm going by his house. I'm going to check on him. So he goes, knocks on the door just to see, be like, it's so weird, because they didn't really talk, but they always got the orders. And he knocks on the door and he hears like grunting and stuff inside. So he calls 911 and the guy had some medical emergency and was on the ground for like 2.5 days. And Domino's saved his life.
How do you
Why
survive?
didn't you check it?
Inclusion pizza saves
That
lives.
can't be helpful.
You
That's
too.
what I
But look
All right, so people also have specific phobias that they're afraid of. By the way, this is question number 7 on your focus. So I know Maddie's excited about Googling different types of phobias, but she also could be using this time to answer number 7 as well. Oh, I'm so excited for you. See, all that Googling paid off. That's what I'm here for. I'm here to celebrate your accomplishments here, girl. So, specific phobias are fear of events of specific situations. Claustrophobia is one of the most famous ones. Acrophobia, fear of heights. Agoraphobia, unable to escape. Is anyone reading? Have any one of you heard the book I'm reading? I got it for my birthday. It's called The Woman in the Mirror. Woman in the Window. Yeah? That's like the number 1 book on the New York Times. Anyway, I'm currently reading it. And it's about a Freudian psychoanalytic therapist. I didn't know that. My mother-in-law gave it to me for my birthday. And she has agoraphobia. She won't step outside of her house. Well, in her window, she spies on her neighbors because she's bored. And she saw murder. So now she's trying to put the pieces together, I guess. It's actually pretty good. The way it's written is really nice. Like, it's really well written.
Have you ever seen Shameless?
Oh yeah, that's what I was
No, I've
thinking.
never
Oh my
seen
god,
that.
Shameless is so funny.
There's this woman that's like terrified, like has it like
And she can't go
like,
outside.
yeah, she goes outside and a plane crashes.
Oh
And
yeah.
she goes back inside.
So, it's really good. Apparently, it's going to be in motion pictures. Apparently, you can just watch Shameless. That also works, I guess. Okay. So, anxiety disorders. First major, so of course we had the free-floating anxiety. Now we have panic. We have phobias, which is an anxiety disorder. And now we have panic disorder. Anyone here ever had a panic attack? I've had one, and it was traumatizing. Oh, you would know. Then you didn't have one. If you have a panic attack or 2 panic attacks in your life, like me, you do not have panic disorder. People who have panic disorder have panic attacks, multiple panic attacks over a span of like 3 or 4 months. I had one. I was going through like a life-changing event. I had a panic attack, and it was terrifying. I was upset, and then I got more upset, and then I couldn't breathe. And then I got freaked out that I couldn't breathe, and then it spiraled into this whole like, oh my God, I'm terrified and not breathing. And I fell down because I wasn't getting enough air. And it was the most terrifying, one of the most terrifying things I've ever experienced. Now, when I get upset, I immediately be like, oh my God, I don't want to have a panic attack. So it makes me more stressed out when I get that way. And McCrae, I terrified him that one day when I had my panic attack. Now, as soon as I start crying, he's like, breathe. Breathe. It's like hyperventilating so much that you can't breathe, that you go through kind of like in and out of consciousness to a degree. It is terrifying. Anyone here ever had one? Morgan, you've had one? It is terrifying. Did you have it public or private? Good. Good for you. Could you imagine having, mine was private. Anyone have a public one? Or you freak out? Okay, I've had people, my last period had a kid who had it in public. Could you imagine going through such a terrifying experience in public? How do you think your peers are going to do? What's wrong with you? Do you think that's going to help or make it worse? It's going to make it worse. And then they're going to be like, but like, why? And like, they're just going to stand there and be like, Are you okay? Like, no, clearly things are not okay. Things are not okay! And that's what a panic attack is. So a person who's suffering from panic disorder is experiencing them on a regular basis. Now, your panic attack was pretty terrible, I assume, right? Traumatizing. Like horrifying, you never want to experience one again. Could you imagine knowing that you're prone to panic disorders, which means you're likely to have them on a very regular basis. So what do you spend all the time you're not having a panic attack doing? Worrying about a panic attack. And that's what panic disorder is. So not only is it traumatizing to go through a panic attack, and anyone who's ever had a panic attack, it's the worst. It's scary. You think you're going to die. Okay? And then you spend all the other time worrying about having a panic attack. Morgan?
I have a friend who in middle school had like a panic disorder, and she had to have like a special room at like in the school where she'd go to where it was like dark and she could like calm down. It would be like
Wow. That's crazy. Yeah. But I mean, it's completely can destroy your life because people won't go out into the public because it's so scary. Jackson?
Yeah, I went through like 2 years straight where like it was about like 5 times like a month I would have panic attacks at night.
Oh my God.
It was scary.
Are you okay?
Yeah, it was like 3 years.
Wait, are you sure they were
Yeah.
Did you go see a therapist?
Yeah.
Good. And you figured it out? There you go. See? Therapy is awesome. Hello.
the box isn't there.
I know it's by my desk because I'm trying to be a grown up, but I didn't do a damn thing. Maddie?
Is there a difference between panic attacks and anxiety attacks?
Okay, anxiety attacks is that feeling of just like, oh my God, something bad's gonna happen. Oh my God, I freaked out. Have you ever freaked out because you didn't do something for homework or something and you just have a complete meltdown?
Oh my gosh.
Yep. Yeah? Okay, that's more of an anxiety attack where you're just overwhelmed by a specific thing and you're just like an emotional wreck, while a panic attack is more of like a physical, I can't breathe, on top of like being scared. That's a great question. Do you see the difference between the two?
Yeah.
Okay. Alright, so obsessive compulsive OCD is a disorder in which intruding reoccurring thoughts or obsessions create anxiety that is relieved by repetitive ritualistic behavior. What?
This is weird. This is really odd. I like, in a way, every night when I go to bed, I have an alarm, like one of those old-fashioned alarms. That like, it's like a digital one, but it's like really crappy. So it's like an alarm. So it's like it has a
You have like the little, you don't use your phone like everyone else?
It just, I don't like going to one. Like it doesn't stop happening. So like I have an alarm, and I can't fall asleep until like I turn the alarm on, then off, like a certain number of times until I feel that I'm safe enough that the alarm will go off.
There you go.
So I did check what time it goes off. I have to say in my head AM and then PM, AM, PM,
There.
and then turn it on and off.
That's the thing, guys. So you already saw, so we covered really one big disorder, panic disorder. And you saw people in this room have had panic attacks. I don't have panic disorder. You said you happen to one, so Morgan clearly doesn't have panic disorders. Okay? So with that being said, you can have the effects of a disorder, like panic attacks, and not have the disorder. Does that make sense? When we're talking about all these different disorders, you may experience it in once in a lifetime thing, or having a weird little nuance like Nico does. Every time I cook in my oven, which is pretty much every single night, 6 days a week, I always, about 10 minutes after I finish eating, after I do the dishes, I always check the oven, I turn it on and then off to make sure it's off.
Those ovens are hard to figure out.
They are. They're tricky. So, I always make sure because I have gas and I don't want to die.
He does it nothing.
We live in the same place.
And we use the same oven.
Do you see Jackson when you go home?
You guys have like
Do a big...
I always
Of
see- I
course
always-
you would have a big smile.
I always see your car and I'm like, this.
Do you live there all the time? Or do you go back and forth?
Like every other weekend I switch.
And this weekend, are you here or there?
My dad's this weekend.
I don't see him that often. However, I have seen
you
him.
guys have like if you guys like had units or attach to each other, would you have like
I
a
pretend like
double-sided-
I don't know him
like a
until he says
double-sided
something to me.
oven Where like both of the doors open.
Yeah.
Does that help give you, Gabriel, a little more insight into the Jackson situation now?
So, it's more than just a student.
You literally said all I do is give Jackson a hard time. It's because we live in the same damn building and I see him not on a regular basis, but it's not uncommon
More
to
than
see
you
him.
want to see them then.
Huh? I'm sorry, what?
You didn't know Jackson.
Saying you're lucky.
Oh, I heard. I'm just confused. What? Sure. So, wait. Go. I'm just done. I just can't. I just
I knew you were
cannot
gonna say
be.
yes, so I was just gonna
I know, it's so obnoxious.
let it get it out of your system.
What?
I'm so good.
So, obsessive compulsive disorder is when you check stuff. Now, every single one of us does something that we have to double check. Nico's clearly got that. I'm the ovens. What other things do we do that's kind of weird that you double check a couple times? Patrick?
Car door.
Car door, you always got to make sure you check it. Hit the little lock. There you go, Elijah.
Alright, any of you play Pokemon, you gotta mash that B button.
Yes.
Oh my god.
He's actually really right.
Okay, we're moving forward. Valentino, turn around.
Don't worry.
So, every single of these disorders you may have a connection with, that doesn't mean you have it. A person with OCD, who truly has OCD, these are people who literally live every single moment with obsessions. Now, for your application, I want you to write the word obsessions and write this after it. Don't write compulsion, write just obsessions. These are concerns that are thought about all the time. Example, germs. Okay, has anyone seen whatever is Good as It Gets? These are things you think about. Okay, so the guy from As Good as It Gets, it's played by, I don't know, he's really fancy. And he says in one of his movies, he's really fancy. Did I just say he's really fancy?
Yeah, you said it like
Damn it.
friends.
Shh, thank you, Maya. He's really famous. He says, you can't handle the truth. You know who I'm talking about? He's also in The Shining. He's the dude in The Shining. Huh? Who is it? Jack Nicholson, thank you very much. So Jack Nicholson is in As Good as It Gets, and he has OCD. He has to wash his hands 7 times a day, but when he washes his hands, he opens a bar of soap, a fresh bar of soap, washes his hands, throws the soap away, opens another bar of soap, washes his hands, throws the bar of soap away, opens another bar of soap. He does it 7 bars of soap, and he washes his hands 7 times a day like that.
I was gonna
He's
say.
very wealthy. He lives in a very fancy place. Thank you, Gabriel. So, with that being said, that's a perfect example of obsessions, because in his head, he's constantly hearing, you're dirty, it's dirty, you're going to die of these diseases, look at all these diseases. Those are the obsessions. The compulsion is what you do to feel better in order to avoid those thoughts. So, for instance, a good example of a compulsion, so the guy, and then Jack Nicholson's character, in his head, all he does is think about the germs and all the diseases and all that stuff. So the compulsion is him washing his hands. There you go. All right, write this down on. Is that it? Thank you very much. You're out of here at the end of class. How long until the end of class? Okay, perfect. So I do have a video clip I want to show you about obsessive compulsive.
Where'd this go?
Yeah.
What?
Where did that go?
What?
The one that you did.
Oh, I did because I didn't really watch you do it.
Oh.
All right. Where are you? See, look at all the ones I have for you this week.
You know, that could be
Great.
worse. I could be.
At this very moment, 1 in nearly 40
I can't hear you anymore, Gabriel. I don't want to listen.
perform an irrational ritual. They wash their hands repeatedly, lock the door 5 times, count to 7 before entering a room, just to get through the day, even the hour. They suffer from obsessive compulsive disorder, a crippling anxiety disorder. OCD is twofold: unwanted recurrent thoughts that will not go away, the obsession, and repetitive actions performed to stop the anxiety, the compulsion. While OCD sufferers know their behavior is often irrational, they cannot stop it on their own. They're often ashamed, embarrassed, or even unaware that they have a treatable disorder at all. And unfortunately, OCD is easily mistaken for something else. It's confused with depression, bipolar disorder, or ADHD. On average, it takes 9 years after onset for an accurate diagnosis. Would you know if you or a loved one was suffering with OCD? Do you know what the signs are? The answer could change your life. Here to help us understand this condition is Dr. David Toll. He's the director of the Anxiety Disorder Center.
How much time do I have? Oh, perfect. Okay. And then, do you want to see a guy who has OCD? No, we're not there.
That's scary. Do you see Anderson Cooper go through like the schizophrenia simulator?
No. Seems oddly specific.
Wait, did I just see I have a black dog and his name is Fresh?
Yes, it's so good. I can't wait to show you people. But that's probably Monday.
Wait, this is the person that's like drugs.
What?
Oh, ticks.
So
Schizophrenia.
Hold on, what? Some people are just neat. All right, here's for Matchstick Men.
Right? Okay, do that.
So he has OCD and he's gonna have panic attack here in a second. He literally hasn't been able to go to work because of his compulsions.
Why? Take your shoes off. You don't come in. You take the pills. I'm taking them off. All right, come on, man. I'm taking the shoes off. Give me a break over here. Okay. Jesus Christ. Oh, God. What is that smell? What, you getting attacked by Mr. Clean? All right. George, open the window, buddy.
No windows.
Okay. Windows are closed. Windows are closed.
You looking for something, sucker?
My partner, have you seen him? He's been missing most of the week. Tall, good-looking guy.
Hey, would you watch the rug? You're spilling food in.
What?
You didn't take your shoes off.
Okay, I'm taking the shoes off. Okay, buddy. I'm taking them off. See, they're off. The shoes are off, okay? There you go. Oh, man, you are bad. You take your pills?
Spilling drain bags.
Oh, Roy, come on, man. Did you call me Cuso?
Moved.
You gotta be shitting me.
That's what I said.
Okay, here we go.
All right, come on. Come on.
Let's go.
It's okay, it's okay, it's okay.
Just breathe. Okay, just keep breathing. Breathe.
Okay, so he's a detective, and he hasn't been able to go to work for about a week, just because his OCD is getting out of hand.
All the food.
He just can't leave his house, all that stuff, which is why.
Listen to me, Roy. You listening? I want to make a couple of calls. My aunt saw the shrink after.
Yeah, so, and he's trying to treat it. I want to show you my GAD girl. She's so good. All right, so generalized anxiety disorder, also known as GAD, is another anxiety disorder. Now, generalized anxiety disorder is when a person has a feeling of dread and impending doom along with physical symptoms which last for 6 months or more. Think about your worst day of anxiety, probably caused an anxiety attack for some of us. For others, think about your worst day of anxiety. Imagine that stress lasting for 6 months or more with no break. How awful does that sound? Okay? Because, last Saturday I woke up and I just was like super, super anxious. Not even the most anxious I've ever been in my life, but just like super anxious. And it just made the whole day awful. Like, I had a bunch of errands to make, and it just made driving and going out and doing that. Imagine if it was truly the worst anxiety I've ever had, and then I had to go function. I couldn't get out of bed. And these are affecting normal people like you and I who have to go to school, who have to go to work, have to pay bills, and they're coping with these types of things, and it's going to last for 6 months or more. All right, you ready, Meter?
Sure.
What was the application for that?
You're going to see her. So, I'm just going to warn you, I love this chick. However, she is everything high schoolers are terrible about. She is exactly what you think of as.
I also want to do this kind of to kick off a series where I
see.
Oh god.
She is like super, super like high school. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like your stereotypical high school girl. So she's really good, and the way she explains it, I think is very relatable, which is why I'm going to make you watch her. I'm also warning you, she's a hardcore fan of Glee.
Okay.
Avery, you and her are going to have a lot in common. Here we go. So, I'm warning you, but what she says is actually very powerful. So please listen. It's just take the immature high schooler to the side, I guess.
Hi everybody. So if you know me, you probably know that I'm a really big fan of the TV show Glee. On it tonight, they're going to do a
She gets
Born
right to
This
it.
Way thing. Like, you know the song by Lady Gaga? Everybody knows the song by Lady Gaga. And it's like, yeah, I was born this way. And it's like pride about who you are and la la la. And they're going to sing it on Glee tonight.
By the way, I literally go through the internet and find people who talk about these disorders so you can hear what it looks like. I think this video had maybe 20 views when I took it and downloaded it so I could show to my kids. So this is just a chick talking to people she knows via her. Oh, I have no idea.
It's actually
20.
But he has
Probably.
shirts.
I mean, I downloaded
And
it. So
they're
like,
about, it's something about themselves. But I really liked Emma's. Emma is the guidance counselor who's kind of, you know, she has OCD, and so her shirt says OCD. And I really like that, and I wanted
generalized
it.
anxiety.
But OCD, while I have it, isn't one of my biggest things, so I decided to make one out of my biggest thing that nobody understands what it is, and that is this, which is GAD. GAD stands for Generalized Anxiety Disorder, which is something I have really badly. A lot of people who are hopefully watching this know me in real life and go to school with me, and those people would know that a lot of the times I'm not there. And you know, I've gotten a lot of crap for that, and I get jokes like, haha, I think you're faking, which just really kind of bugs me. And it's not only because of the anxiety, a lot of it is actually because of my pain disorder. I have fibromyalgia, but one of the biggest things I have is generalized anxiety disorder, which is kind of what it sounds like. I'm gonna try to explain it because many people I assume would hear the name of it and just think, oh, anxiety, well, I get that, it's everybody has that, blah 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 blah. Like, oh, I've heard about depression before, like, well, everybody gets sad, blah blah blah. Like, no. Okay, so I'm gonna try to do this. I woke up feeling like this. I get panic attacks a lot. People with generalized anxiety disorder normally do. So I woke up this morning, and you know the feeling you get when you get in trouble? Whenever I get in trouble,
Maybe I won't show you all my videos this week if you're just gonna be mean to me.
What's the conclusion of the video? She talks about it?
She's talking.
Yeah. Don't you want to know what it feels like really feels like?
No.